Hi, everyone, and welcome to this video on how to get on track for retirement with 5 small changes. I'm Joe Allaria, certified financial planner, partner, and wealth advisor with CarsonAllaria Wealth Management. And if you are looking for hope about your retirement situation and you think you might not be on track, this is the video for you. Because in this video, again, I'm going to share 5 small changes, things that you can do that are very simple to get you back on track for retirement. So maybe you can't do all of them, but maybe you can do 1 or 2, because each one of these 5 can have a very profound impact on your retirement success down the road. So let's jump in and look at these 5 small changes that you can make to get you on track for retirement. The examples I'm going to share here are hypothetical, but it should give you a sense, an idea of how you can get yourself on track for retirement. But again, this is not intended as individual advice. Everyone needs to sit down and build their own financial plan or have a financial advisor evaluate your specific circumstance and make sure that you are okay to take these steps to get on track for retirement. You might have seen our other 2 videos in this 3-video series about how to set up your financial plan, the right way to build your financial house. I highly encourage you to go watch those videos before you watch this video, before you start making a whole bunch of changes to your contributions on your 401k or your investment strategy. Go back, watch how to properly build your financial house, watch how to invest at any age, then come back and watch this video. You can find them all at our channel on YouTube. So go there and check those out before you watch this. Okay, so let's talk about how to get on track. And really, this whole retirement conversation post 2008, some say a retirement crisis began. And it's very clear when we look at the statistics on this. This data is a few years old, but it still rings true today, that it says 1 in 3 Americans has nothing saved for retirement, which is very scary. Nothing saved for retirement. That's a third of the people out there, and let alone the people that are getting closer to retirement, over 55 years of age. If you look at that age group, 28% of people over 55 have no retirement savings. So this probably, if this is you, this is adding a lot of stress. If you feel like you're behind, it's probably adding stress, and you don't want to be in this category, because you're going to get to a point where there's not a whole lot that can help. These changes I'm going to mention, they're not going to help you if you're 62 years old trying to retire at 65, and it's not going to get you over the hump. So these are changes that need to be made as soon as possible, strategies that you can implement. Hopefully you're watching this at a younger age, because if you are, they can really, really help you. But like I said, here's the good news. These are 5 things. And the 5 things we're going to talk about today that can have big results are: number 1, the power of starting early; number 2, the 1% factor; number 3, the impact of bad allocation; number 4, the power of free money; and number 5, the power of 1 more year. So let's talk about this starting early, the power of getting started early. And what we're talking about here is compound interest. And when we say 5 small changes, the small change here we're talking about is just doing something, just saving money. And again, go back, watch our videos on how to properly build a financial house. But if you have no high interest debt, if you have an emergency fund, if you covered all your short-term goals and you're ready to start saving for retirement, then there's no time like the present. Get started, start putting something away. If you're having trouble doing that, you need to look at your expenses. Maybe there are some things you can cut out to live a little bit beneath your means, so that you have enough left to save for retirement for down the road. And here's an example of how powerful starting early can be. We have 2 people here on the screen. One of them started at age 25 saving, and one started at 35. Now, I don't imagine that there's anyone who would ever do this, but the person who started at age 25, hypothetically, saved $10,000 a year from 25 to 35, and then stopped saving, didn't save another dime. The person that started at age 35 saved $10,000 a year, but saved that amount of money for 30 years until they were 65 years old. And if you just do a calculation on this, and you look at the person starting at 25 contributed $100,000 in that 10 years, and their balance at approximately at age 64 is about $1.1 million. If you assume a consistent growth rate, the same for each one, The same person or the different person who started at age 35 saved $300,000 and has approximately $1 million dollars at age 64. So about the same, a little bit less. Now, someone might be watching this and say, Joe, I think you did your math wrong there, but we actually didn't. The difference is compound interest. If you look at this, the person who started at age 25 had 10 more years of compounding than the person that started at 35. And that's what's making all the difference in the world here is the person who started 10 years earlier only had to save 100,000 to get to where they were at 65. The person who started at 35 had to work a lot harder, had to save a lot more to get to the same amount. Now, if you're 35, don't feel bad about this. If you're 45, don't feel bad about this. It is what it is. There are other strategies we're going to talk about that can help. But if you're younger and you still have the opportunity to get started, just doing anything is going to help you. So don't delay, don't put it off, and do as much as you can as early as you can. As long as you have those other foundational parts of your financial plan figured out and covered, I would encourage you to explore doing something and start contributing. And people say, well, how much should I contribute? That's different for everybody, but contribute as much as you can before you elevate your lifestyle as you get raises and promotions. Look at how much you're saving, because you may want to just save as much as you can and try to get close to that max contribution level in your retirement plans. Because obviously, if you're hitting the max, you're doing a lot. And, it's hard to put a number on how much someone should be saving. But I've heard 15 to 25% in the past. And I tend to think that's a decent target depending on what age you are. So a lot of you, if you just do 5% and your company matches 3, that's 8%. But I think most of us out there are going to need to save more if we want to retire. Many people want to retire early, spend a lot of money in retirement, travel, and do all these wonderful things. But you're going to have to save more when you're working in order to accomplish all that down the road. The second small change that we can make, and this is one that I love, and I emphasize this so much when I talk with employees on the job site, talking about their 401k, the power and the benefits of increasing your contribution by just 1% every single year. And what I'm talking about here is if I'm contributing 5% to my 401k this year, many 401k platforms will let you schedule an automatic increase so that I'm going to go from 5% to 6% next year, from 6% to 7%, and then it can just continue to go up as high as I want it until I hit the max contribution level. I would highly encourage you to automate this increase. But even if you don't automate it, go in when you get a raise. Say you get a 3% raise. Try to go in when you get that raise, try to bump that 401k contribution up by 1%. And if you do that, it makes an absolutely profound impact down the road. And we actually have an example of this in here. So we've got someone who's Mr. Jack Young. He's 35 years old. He makes $75,000 per year. And if we assume a 6% growth rate, and we also assume he's going to retire at 67 years old, we can see how beneficial it is for Jack to increase his contributions 1% every year. Here is a chart showing if he just contributes 6% of his salary for his entire career, 6%. He does pretty well, and his portfolio grows and lasts until he's about 86 years old. So that's not too bad. But look at the difference if he raises his contribution by 1% every single year. So he goes 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and he goes all the way up to the max and up to 20%. It is not only going to get him to age 90, it's going to get him beyond age 90. And it adds over 4 years of retirement funding to his picture and over $431,000 when he is 90 years old. And to me, that's pretty significant. Just raising my contribution 1% every year, 6% to 7 to 8, just by 1%. And you hardly notice if it's 1%. Hopefully, again, you get a raise and you can carve out some of that raise or bonus and just contribute that to the 401k or your retirement plan. It makes such a big difference. So look and see if your 401k provider has this feature. Many of them do. And take a look and check that out and see if it's something that you can do and take advantage of, because it can be very, very beneficial. Okay, the third simple, small change that you may want to make, and it may be a good strategy for you, is to look at your allocation. What do I mean by that? It's just to look at how your money is invested, because if it's not invested properly, you're going to really be hurting yourself. And I'm not talking about anything crazy, but some of the things that I see, people are sometimes too conservative. Other times they have too much invested in one thing. And other times they're trying to time the market. So these are the three main mistakes that we see. What I mean, too conservative. Well, you're a young investor and you've got a ton of your 401k and a money market or somewhere safe because you're afraid of the ups and downs of the market. Well, go back again, watch our second video on how to invest at any age. And we talk about, stocks, bonds, and what makes the most sense. But when you're younger, if you can tolerate it emotionally, pushing more over to stocks historically has led to higher returns. That's going to help you get on track for retirement if you're too conservative. Another thing is people pick one fund, and maybe it's their company stock and they just pour everything into their company stock in the 401k. That could be good. It could be really bad if the stock doesn't do well. They might throw everything in the S&P 500, which historically has been pretty good, but it's had extended periods where it hasn't been good at all. So you got to be careful about that. And the one I see all the time is someone who is jumping in, jumping out of the market. They think the market's going to go down, so they jump out. Then they jump back in after things have gotten better. That's backwards. That's the opposite of what you want to do. And by just staying allocated, staying diversified, and remaining that way, if you can just capture what the market provides historically, if you've been able to do that historically, you would have been just fine and received a strong rate of return if you look at historical returns. And the point here is not to say you can get a certain percentage, but if you can just get 1% better than these other mistakes, doing it these other ways could cost you to give up 1% or 2% a year. If you could just do 1% better than that, it can make a pretty big difference. So imagine a 6% growth rate, as we showed earlier for Mr. Young. 6%. What if he messed up and tried to time the market and he made some mistakes and then it cost him, he ended up only getting 5%. Well, that's a $500,000 mistake at the end of his life. $500,000 difference. And now his money's going to run out at 78 instead of 86. That's an 8-year difference. So that's huge. So going too conservative, trying to time the market, these things are going to bring in the possibility that you're going to underperform the market. And that's the consequence. On the other side, if you can remain, maybe you want to invest more aggressively and push for a higher return. And when I say more aggressive, I'm simply meaning a higher percentage to a diversified stock portfolio, which has historically led to higher returns. Well, if you do that and you just get 1% better, now you're adding 4 years plus, really, and almost adding $1 million at age 90, just under $900,000 at age 90. This is just math, but this is part of our financial planning software where you're seeing these charts. We can look at these what if scenarios, but that's the difference. A 1% difference either way actually makes a huge difference. And the next thing I want to talk about is the fourth small change is the power of free money and using the power of free money. See, some employers and many that we work with, they offer free money, a match, or what's called a non-elective contribution that they'll just give to you no matter if you contribute or not. But some of you out there watching may be working for an employer that does not offer this. And maybe you have other opportunities that you could pursue, and maybe an employer that you could go work for would match 4 or 5%, and your current employer doesn't even have a retirement plan. Well, that can actually make a very big difference for your retirement long term. And we can see it here. Here, the scenario that we showed you earlier was Mr. Young. He has a 5% match. So that's what got him to 86. But if he had no match, now his money runs out at 75. If he just did his 6% and didn't get the match of 5, now his money's running out at 75. That's a huge difference. Almost $750,000. It is $750,000 difference at the end of his life. So that's how important a company match is. So I would say, number one, if your company is matching, go give them a big thank you, give your boss a high five, tell them thanks. If not, if your company's not matching or contributing for you, you could approach them about that, or look for other opportunities, jobs with better benefits, because that's how important it is. Imagine another 5%. You're doing 6, you get another 5%. That's free money. And we can't overlook that. And we can't overemphasize that because it actually is a very, very big deal. And last but not least, it's the power of working one more year. And I know that this is one that, okay, maybe you're older, closer to retirement, and you say, hey, Joe, a lot of the things you've talked about in here don't apply to me. I'm too close to retirement. If I up my contributions by 1%, it's only going to be a couple years. If I get more aggressive, I've only got a couple years to make this up. And the unfortunate truth is you could be right. You might be too close to retirement for those strategies to impact you, but just working one more year can have a pretty significant impact. So I know it's not always everyone's favorite, but here we have Mr. Young again working till age 86, or excuse me, working to age 67. His money runs out at 86. So what happens if he decides, I'll work one more year, I'll work to age 68, don't want to, but don't have a lot of other options? Well, now he just added another 4 years. So he worked 1 year to add 4 years of retirement funding. Now, does this apply the same for everyone? Absolutely not. Okay, again, this is where you need to do a retirement plan or a financial plan for yourself with your specific information. But in this case, he was able to add almost $250,000 at the end of his life at age 90 and to provide 4 more years of retirement funding. How is that possible? Well, it's just math. If he works one more year, that's 1 more year of income, 1 more year of contributions, and 1 less year of withdrawals and distributions. So the power of working 1 more year, like the others, can be very significant. And guess what? Maybe one of these things doesn't get you where you need to be, but maybe I can combine all 5 of these things or 3 of the 5. And imagine if I just combine a few of these things. Maybe I can't increase my contributions 1% every single year. But what if I can do it every other year? What if I can bump my allocation up just maybe a little bit more aggressive because I've been overly conservative, and maybe schedule myself to work just 1 extra year? Those 3 things can make a really significant difference in the long term. So, what are the takeaways? Well, if you haven't started yet, get started as early as you possibly can. Start increasing your contributions. Try by 1% a year. If you can do more, fantastic. Have a trained professional look at your allocation and tell you if they think it's appropriate or not, preferably a certified financial planner to tell you if it's appropriate or not. And then if you're close to retirement, you really need to get that retirement analysis, which we do offer complimentary here at our firm. But you need to see what your retirement plan looks like as you're getting closer. So if you want help or need help, obviously you can reach out to us. Our contact information is in the notes for the video, or you can go to our website at CarsonAllaria.com. And as always, if you have any questions, you can email them to us at CarsonAllaria.com, info@CarsonAllaria.com. And we'll do our best to get to you on your questions. And you might just want to schedule a call. It's no obligation, a 20-minute phone call. We will chat with you about your situation, see if we can help. So I hope that was helpful. Those were 5 what I think are pretty easy changes, most of them in our control. For the most part, we can decide to contribute more, start early. Now, the only reason you couldn't start early, maybe you're at an older age, but for the most part, these are in our control, things that we can do, and hopefully gave you a bit of hope. If you feel like you're behind, if you feel like you're not where you need to be for retirement, hopefully this gave you just that ray of light to say, you know what, I can do this. I can hit some of these things. And I tell you what, it's going to make a very big difference. With that, thank you for watching this video. Make sure you stay tuned to our other videos. And you can also check me out and check us out on the Retirement Power Hour, where we interview folks and we talk about financial strategies to help listeners invest wiser and retire better. So catch our videos on YouTube or listen to us on Apple or Spotify. That's the Retirement Power Hour. But I want to thank you for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you again in the future. Take care.